So imagine this. You get a call from Hollywood. They're tangled up in this huge lawsuit, and you, a university professor from Kansas, are the only person on Earth who can help them. But here's the thing. They don't need you to testify. They need you to teach them how to build a tornado. All right, let's get into the incredible and totally true story of Joe R. Eagleman. Name your price. Those were the 3 words a lawyer for Universal Studios said to Dr. Eagleman over the phone. You know, it was the very first time in his life anyone had ever said that to him. And, well, it was the start of a really strange, really high-stakes showdown between corporate giants. So, the guy at the heart of all this was Joe R. Eagleman, a professor of atmospheric science. In his book, you can see it here, it tells the story of how his work completely pulled him out of the university lab and into this wild world of big corporations. He was stuck right in the middle of them, not because he was a lawyer or some business whiz, but because he had unlocked one of nature's secrets right there in his laboratory. Yeah, you heard that right. Universal was being sued by Volvo, the car company. And you're probably asking why. Well, it's because Volvo had used an artificial tornado in one of their TV commercials, and they were claiming they owned the rights to the technology. Universal, who really wanted to build a huge tornado attraction for their theme park, was like, no you don't. So this is why it all came down to Dr. Eagleman. He was the key witness because he had literally written the book on how to do it. See, years before all this, he'd used the system of fans in the ceiling of his lab and managed to create the first stable, unconfined, man-made tornado, and he'd published the whole method for anyone to see. So, thinking fast on the phone, he just blurts out a price, $1,000 a day for his services. And get this, he later admitted he probably could have asked for 10 times that, and they would have paid it without even blinking. Universal flew him out to Hollywood, and sure enough, with his help, they won the case. And look, this guy was no one-hit wonder. His career was incredible. We're talking about a man who, back in the 60s, contradicted federal weather advice on tornado safety and was later proven to be absolutely right. He worked with NASA on the Skylab space station, for crying out loud. And yeah, his little lab experiment eventually became a massive theme park ride seen by millions. Just a truly brilliant mind. But you know, what's really amazing about this story isn't just the tornado in a building. It's the man who built it. Because his journey, it didn't start in some high-tech lab or at a fancy university. Oh no, it started somewhere very, very different. So let's pull back the curtain a little bit. Who was this guy, really? Where does a mind like that even come from? What kind of childhood forges a scientist who can pull off these incredible things? I think the answer is going to surprise you. He was Joe Eagleman, born the 11th of 12 children on a family farm right in the heart of the Ozarks. I mean, we are talking about a world that is almost impossible for us to imagine today. A world so far removed from Hollywood studios and NASA control rooms, it might as well have been on another planet. Think about it. His parents had never even been to high school. His family home didn't have an indoor toilet. His one-room schoolhouse was actually more modern than his house was. This was not a place that was supposed to produce world-class research scientists. Or so you think. So what was life actually like? Well, in a world with no TVs, no video games, not even a lot of store-bought toys, entertainment was something you had to make. You had to create it with your own 2 hands and your imagination. Just take this slingshot, for example. You didn't buy this at a store. No, this was engineered. You had to go find the perfect forked branch, you had to harvest the rubber from an old tire inner tube, cut a pouch from a worn-out shoe. Every single part of it was a lesson in physics and resourcefulness. It was a tool you built from scratch. A really rare treat was getting a nickel for a box of Cracker Jacks, and the prize inside, that was absolute treasure. Joe kept this little blue pistol for 65 years. Just a little reminder of a time when a tiny piece of metal could be one of your most prized possessions. And this right here really shows you what was valuable back then. His father made each of his kids a wooden treasure box. Inside Joe's, you'd find stuff like arrowheads, his old grade school pictures, his baby teeth that he'd pulled, and of course, the fork for a slingshot. These were the real treasures of a country boy. Okay, this is just fantastic. One of his sisters, Lou, she recently found this little note in her own treasure box. All it says is, "Don't let Joe get the mail anymore." He says he doesn't remember losing any mail, but he has a sneaking suspicion he might not have brought back a piece of penny candy she was waiting for. A perfect little window into their family life, right? All right, so let's zoom in on the daily rhythm of this life. The whole structure of the family and the community, it was all built around the farm, around hard work, and around the dinner table. The meals they ate were simple, they were hearty, and they were always the same. Breakfast was, well, breakfast. But lunch, the main meal of the day, that was called dinner. And the evening meal was called supper, which was usually just leftovers from dinner, or maybe just some cornbread and milk, if that's all there was. And the table itself, that was a whole universe of order. I mean, with 12 kids, you're not going to have enough chairs to go around, so they had this really strict seating chart. Some kids were on benches, and the youngest ones, like Joe for a while, sat on nail kegs. Yeah, empty wooden barrels. Everyone had their spot. The family's main connection to the entire outside world was the local country store. It was a mile-long walk to get there. It was the post office, the gas station, and the grocery store all rolled into one. It was the absolute center of their community, and it was the one place where a single penny could buy you a piece of bubblegum. So when you put all of this together, the story just becomes even more incredible, doesn't it? How on earth do you get from that world, a world of nail kegs and homemade slingshots, all the way to NASA and Hollywood? Just look at this contrast. It's staggering. On one side, you've got a childhood in a one-room schoolhouse, making your own toys, catching crawdads in a stream. On the other side, you've got a top university professor directing NASA experiments and being told to name his price by Hollywood. The two worlds just couldn't seem farther apart. But then again, maybe they aren't so far apart after all. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? What if a childhood spent observing how a stream flows, or engineering a tool from scraps, or just learning how to make something out of absolutely nothing? What if that isn't a disadvantage at all? What if that's actually the perfect training ground for a pioneering scientific mind?